I was a journalist, I was a television reporter here in Canada, happy mother. Okay, the marriage wasn't what I wanted, but I was going to soldier on until at least the children were, out of the house. But it became very, very difficult. One of the classic behaviors of alienation is telling a child that their other parent doesn't love them. And one day in front of me, my now ex-husband said to one of my children, "Your mother doesn't love you. Your mother doesn't love me. She doesn't love your siblings. She only loves herself." And my head about blew up. And I thought, wow, now the psychological abuse and emotional abuse that I was dealing with, I now saw was directly being done to my children. And I thought, okay, I can't wait. I had also read a book at the time, What Children Learn from Their Parents' Marriage. And on page 1, it said that our relationship is their blueprint for all their intimate relationships going forward. And I thought, wow, I do not want my sons treating their partner like this, and I do not want my daughters being treated like this. So it made me feel like, okay, I have to do something. And as often happens when, in this case, a woman decides to leave a marriage and you're involved with someone who's very controlling, that's when things really get bad. I think I experienced all 17 classic alienating behaviors, and I lost contact with some of my children for almost a decade. Maybe see them 5 minutes on their birthdays, or maybe I wasn't granted on their birthdays. It would have to be 3 days after to give them a gift, or Christmas. You can have 5 minutes, and it's heartbreaking, and it meant that I couldn't continue working. Like, the depression and the trauma was so massive. I lost my career over it. It's been a struggle to build myself back up. It took, there was 10 years of alienation. The last 3 years were very slowly reconnecting, and I would tell any parent, it's never a linear path to reconnection. It's 2 steps forward, you think, oh my God, I saw them, and then you don't hear from them for 6 months. After the whole 10-year period, okay, we were good. We were really reconnected. It's been 11, 12 years now since that moment, and we're rock solid. I've been told by the mental health professionals in my life who knew I was a journalist, you really need to talk about this. You really need to take your skills and help us explain to legislators, to judges, to other parents, to the general public, that this really is a thing and it really is happening. I liken it to being a big iceberg. We see a little bit, but there's so much. So that's what I do now, and it's taken me all these years to really feel rock solid. I'm not worried about the relationship with my kids, that this would hurt it. And in fact, I knew that I would have to say to them, you know what, I feel called to help parents dealing with parental alienation. And when I had that conversation with them, that was the first time I'd used that term with them. Their response was, yeah, Mom, you've got to do this. This is your wheelhouse. Like, this is what you do. And I think part of why they were so supportive was, for them, it meant that that whole horrible, messy period that they know they were a part of is really kind of behind us, because Mom's back to who she was. It's not for them to explain their actions, and it's certainly not for them to apologize for their actions. We don't ask a victim of abuse to apologize. The real force that wins this, and the force that will always win, is unconditional love. There is nothing more powerful. We will walk through burning buildings to, do anything for our kids. I was so alone in the early 2000s, because that's when it was happening. Like, I didn't know anybody, and I thought, this cannot be. I know the truth, but like, no one around me is listening. And then as I've, been in this now for 25 years or 20 years or so, there's a lot of parents dealing with it, and they just need some hope. They need someone who understands what they're dealing with. And then the general public needs to know this term, because every time I mention just kind of what I'm doing, every single person says, I know somebody, I think that's what's going on. That's why it's an iceberg. I've dealt with the gamut of mild, moderate, and severe alienation. Interestingly, those who were severely alienated, where I saw them 5 minutes, 10 minutes a year for 8 years. We're very close. I am very close to their children. I'm a much loved grandma, and they have no relationship with their father. And that's never something that I've required. And in fact, there's another child from another marriage, and that child is very close with me and my kids and no relationship with the father. So would love to have a relationship if it were possible to do so without the behaviors that they don't want, like constantly being corrected, constantly having their life choices questioned, constantly putting down that child's partner. So things like that. When his mother passed away, they went to the funeral to honor their grandmother, and they really wanted me to go too. So I went with them in solidarity for their pain because the grandmother was really great. When I was going through alienation, and I was a television reporter, and I was a good reporter, and I loved breaking news stories, and I really liked defending those who don't have a voice. Well, alienated parents don't have a voice. And so I knew, okay, this is a thing. And as I started finally meeting a couple of professionals, a mental health professional and a lawyer who actually knew this phenomenon, and they saw me on TV before, they said, you really need to do something about it. So I kept everything, all my journals, all my agendas, every ticket stub, parking thing, because then I went through it and I rebuilt everything in my head so I could know what was going on. And I just knew that I had to help parents who were going through it, because when I was going through it, all I wanted was someone I could follow. You've been through it? How'd you get out of it? What'd you do? What not to do? Because everything I'm doing that's normal, and I'm a good mom. Like, I'm a really good, loving mom. It's not working. Like, I couldn't understand. And in fact, it's making matters worse. So that I couldn't figure out. So when I finally figured that out, I thought, I gotta help other parents, because I wasted their teenage years trying to figure this out. That really is my duty and my calling. And I just feel like my life's mission was for this. All the skills, all the experiences came for something. And that's another message, a secret. Don't talk about that term with them. It's not going to do any good, and it's not their fault. Generally speaking, there aren't a million stories out there of parents who've reconnected with their kids. The vast majority actually lose the relationship forever. The fact that I reconnected, and I really do have some strong ideas that are backed by my life experience and the literature, because I'm a journalist and I look at peer-reviewed, scientific studies, and I want to talk to lawmakers and the media because I understand how they operate. That's the contribution that I can make. And so that's what Navigating PA is. If I were in this now, what would help me get through it? What do I need? You don't inadvertently make matters worse, which we fall into that trap. And then the other trap we fall into is the massive trauma and depression. If we want to bring our children back into our lives, that is step one. It's really step one of taking care of ourselves so that the children, when I talked before about how difficult it is for them to see us broken, we have to take this incredible pain and try to understand why we were targets for this. Not everybody falls for these characters like we did. Why was that? We shouldn't be walked on, and we need to learn how to stand up for ourselves. And these are all the things I had to learn really the hard way. Step one is, it's very normal to look at and focus on the actions of the other, if it's the parent, or I like to call it the alienating force. It can be the parent, it can be in-laws, it can be a new partner who becomes the alienator. So depersonalize it, the alienating force. Try not to focus on what they're doing, because their whole strategy is to do things to upset us, and we react. And when we react, we get upset. And when we get upset, we start to look crazy. And they're going to say, see, she's looking crazy, right? And the kids, look at, she's losing it. That's what they want. The worst thing you can do for them is to say, you don't matter. You don't affect me. We call ourselves targeted parents. I don't like that term. I understand it. Yes, I had a big target on my back. I took it off. I'm not your target. I am bonded with my children. Regardless of what you try to do, we have a bond, and every parent has a bond with their child. Well, now you need to hear that your child feels it too. They really do. And they actually really deep down do want you. They're just trapped and they can't show it. And someone's messing with their mind about who you are and what you really feel. If you are the opposite of what's being told about you, you're poised, you're calm. I've got this. I've got you. I know we have a bond. And very, very, very importantly, this is so important. I trust you, and I'm pointing to the child. I trust that you're going to figure this out. I'm going to do everything I can to help you. But I can't change them. I can't control the other side. I can't control what they say. What would I do if there were no alienation as their parent? Their birthday's coming up. What would I normally do? Do what you would normally do. Do your best to figure out how to get it to them. I'm not implying that every parent knows where their child is. I realize you don't. But if there are allies, if there are people who can help you and you approach them calmly, fall apart, but when you're out in public with them, do your best to show, no, I'm above this. A lot of parents ask me, their graduation is coming up. I said, you go. Don't make a scene. And I was in the back row. And I've recommended this to a lot of parents, and my therapist at the time said that was brilliant. I put together a photo album from baby times, and I put little captions, and it was a beautiful, there was silver around, it was very special, and I gave it to them, and I didn't expect anything. I just encountered them. I warned. I got a text through, said, I'm going to be in the audience at your graduation. That's it, you know, and congratulations, always positive messages. You're not needing anything from them. You're not requiring anything. That is such opposition to what they're getting from the other parent. It's that distinction that they're going to go, be the parent you would normally be as best you can. That will also help you still feel like a parent. And I know my love is unconditional, so I'm not going anywhere. I will be here. I will be ready for you. That energy, they feel it. Because when I switched, like it wasn't long before that switch was like, the kids noticed. And there was this, they felt safer approaching me. It's counterintuitive, but it really does help. And if nothing else, it's going to help you at least live through this. Give yourself permission. It's not, you know, I used to think if I'm not thinking of my kids 24/7, I've failed them. No, you're a person, you're human, you're not a robot. You need to take care of your health, take care of your mental health, talk to others, do things you love, be kind to yourself. You're modeling to your kids how to go through trauma. When we were reconnecting and we were good, I said, you know, it's been a rough patch that our family's been through. But I'll say this, you kids, you've survived something massive at a young age. You have strength, you have resilience, that's going to carry you through life. It amazes me how well they are all doing. When you're going through it, you're not just losing that parent, you're losing the grandparents, the cousins, and even the siblings were at different places. So that there were times when the siblings didn't see each other as much. So there were some abandonment issues there that had to be dealt with. And what the literature says, if you have one good enough parent, and it doesn't have to be a parent, an adult figure in a child's life who is consistently there, loving, accepting, and listening, that is something that they hold on to in the storm. I was lucky in the sense that my parents were really good role models of unconditional love. Now, one of the problems with that is they made marriage look easy. So I think I didn't give it a whole lot of thought of who you married. That's easy, you know, and I'm an easygoing person. I could get along with anybody, right? That was a perfect target for someone who wasn't getting along with everybody. And, you know, I've met parents who come from a background that is not unconditional love. And so for them to access that, I've found is a little bit harder. When we speak and we're filled with trauma, we speak in a way that people can sense and they push back. And so before you reconnect with your children, you have to deal with your trauma because they can sense it. I work a lot with horses. They feel it and our children feel it. Now horses show it because they're not going to move. They're not going to follow you anywhere. Our children, we might have to drag them along, and so they're forced to. I thought judges would see how horrible I was doing and have compassion. Boy, was I wrong. I don't have compassion for that. It's like, give me someone who could explain this calmly because I got about an hour with you guys. And so the other side wins because they're all calm, And then you've got to boil down your story, your alienation story. You got to boil it down to 30 seconds, a minute tops. If you want to be effective and tell people what you're dealing with, you cannot just throw everything at them. It's too much. I had a great relationship with my kids. I used to take them all the time to their sports and this and that. Then we separated, and I've seen them 5 minutes in the last year. We allow abusers in jail more access. You got to help us. Boil down your story to those facts. That will speak to people. We got to reach people with their feelings and not push them away with our overwhelm.